Hello everyone, and thank you for joining me on this video. Today I want us to talk about Mary as mother and looking at how we can dedicate our motherhood journey to Mary. Particularly because we're in the month of October, the church encourages us to think more about Mary at this time, to pray the rosary, to reflect on her life, to reflect on the life of her son. And I thought, what a wonderful opportunity for us to also see if we can dedicate our motherhood journey to Mary. And this doesn't matter whether you're trying to get pregnant, whether you're already pregnant and you're looking forward to having your baby, or maybe you already have your children and you're raising them. Wherever aspect of the journey that you are, you can always find and see Mary, see yourself in Mary's circumstance and her own journey, because we're lucky enough to have the narrative of her own journey from when she conceived her baby up until when she had the baby and then she raised her son, and we know a good chunk of that story, and we can try and fill in what we don't actually know, what the gospels don't tell us. But before I move forward on this, I just wanted to ask you if you could maybe remove the image of the very common image of Mary that we always see. Mary with the baby Jesus looking very serenely, adoring him, looking calm, prayerful, and all of that. And I'm not saying that Mary wasn't pious. I don't say that. I'm not saying that didn't show a lot of love or she wasn't calm and with her son. But I believe that that's not the complete picture. Every mother knows that motherhood is messy. Motherhood can be challenging. Motherhood has its ups and downs. And it's even though Mary was born without original sin, and because of that, she didn't have a stain on her soul. Because of that, she was closer to God. Because of the Holy Spirit dwelt in her, to have for her to have a baby, and I'm sure even afterwards, just as Holy Spirit dwells in us as well. But of course, so in her will be more in a fuller capacity, I think that should say. However, she had her challenges. She had her motherhood challenges, and motherhood was not a plain sailing, a plain sail journey for her. It wasn't something that she was, excited about all the time, and she was so serene about all the time. Let's look at what the Gospels tell us. Let's look at, for instance, let's even start with the joyful mysteries. She was going about her business, and then all of a sudden, the angel appears to her and asks her that she's going to tell us that she's going to be a mom, and she's not going to do it the normal way. Because she was the handmaid of the Lord, because she loves God so much and she served God, of course she agreed to do that. But you can imagine, you think about it, you're engaged to a man, a very holy man, a good man, and then you're pregnant, but you don't have the chance or the opportunity to even tell this man that this is this is what's happened. You could see that he knows that you're pregnant. You can't tell him. I know that the Gospels have told us how the struggle that Joseph himself had around the pregnancy that Mary had, about Mary's pregnancy. But it's very silent on Mary's thoughts around her pregnancy. Yes, she loved the fact that she was ready to serve God. She loved that God has chosen her, and, in her humility, she accepted it. But it would have come with its own challenges. She needed to be able to defend herself. She needed to break up this relationship with this man, or we'd ask God to sort it out in one way. But there will be apprehension, there will be anxiety. Think of the fact that eventually, when she did get married to Joseph and they went into Bethlehem, she was riding on a horse or even walking on a donkey, apparently, on a donkey. Imagine you're 9 months pregnant, 8.5 months pregnant, and you're making that long, arduous journey to a place where you don't even know where you're going to be. You don't know the resources you're going to have to be able to have your baby. You don't know anything that's going on. Yes, she would have had full faith in God because she knows that this was God's plan, but as a human being, and let's not forget, she was human and she is human. There'll be thoughts around her in her mind. How do I do this? This is my first baby. Would I even be able to have access to a midwife? Well, close with the baby, where maybe she had packed some stuff, but she doesn't know how long the journey was going to be. She didn't know where she was going to live to live during the time she was going to be in Bethlehem. And to make matters worse, in quotes, there was even no place for her to sleep. There was no place for her to have a baby. She had to have a baby surrounded by animals. There's no mom who is not going to feel a certain level of anxiety, a certain level of, what should I do now? Yes, we were called to have a deep faith in God, and I'm sure she did. But again, motherhood for her was not as easy as we would expect. And then, of course, we saw how she had to go after 40 days, she had to do the purification like every other woman. So she would have had to queue. She didn't have money, so she had to use two turtle doves as against people who had more money and they could use, I think it was a pigeon or a lamb or something. the two doves were for people who did not have money because they were very, very cheap. So you had to do this purification. But if you didn't have the money to use the bigger animal, you're allowed by law, by law, I would say, by the Mosaic law, to use the two turtle doves. So she was poor, but she still had to do this. And then she went there to a new mom with her baby, with her husband. She did all the rituals and the rites, and she did what she was supposed to do. She had this person come and tell her that something's going to happen to your son. Excited, but something's going to happen to you. Something's going to happen to your son, and all of these things. She was pondering everything in her heart. And she's pondering, when you talk about pondering something in your heart, you're thinking about it. You are reflecting on it. What does this mean? Her life as a mom was very open ended. She didn't know exactly where it was going to take her to. She had an inkling. She would have read should have read the prophets. She knew something was going to happen. She had confirmation in the fact that Simeon came, and later on the wise men came, and all of that. And I say later on because we now have more understanding that the wise men did not come immediately. Jesus was born. Not necessarily so. Maybe he was actually several months old. It's one of the reasons why Herod told his soldiers to kill every child 2 years and below, because of, again, I'm not going to go into all that because this is not the point of this video. So yeah, and she had all this thoughts, these ideas from the wise men. She had Simeon come to tell her that she had read the prophets. She knew something was happening. When was it going to happen? How was it going to happen? She pondered all of this in her heart. Again, she had an unfailing, strong, deep faith in God, because she said she was a handmaid of the Lord, and anything God wanted, she was happy for that to happen. But it didn't mean that for her motherhood was easy. And think about the fact that at some point she even lost her son for 3 days. Now imagine a mom losing a child for 3 days. Just begin to think of what's going on in her mind at that point. And this was not just any child. This was the Son of God. And I'm sure she's thinking, God, why would you allow your son to get missing? How can I find him? I'm really sorry. This job you've given me, what have I done with it? And it wasn't exactly her fault. They thought Jesus was going with the men's group, because then apparently the men traveled differently, the women traveled differently, so the children could decide to go with the moms or the dad, and both of them kind of thought this. Again, this explanation is based on studies and theology and stuff like that. But then they got their wires crossed, not knowing that Jesus had decided, what, I'm not even going with any of them. I am staying home in my father's house. And imagine the 3 days when she would have been in despair. Well, she's not going to be in despair. Despair means that there's no hope. But in very anxious. This is her son. This is the Son of God. So again, motherhood for her was not plain sailing. And when we see her with the baby Jesus, gentle, meek, humble, prayerful, I want to believe that this was just an aspect of her life. She had normal motherhood challenges. She had normal motherhood anxieties. She had, I have to feed him, I have to bathe him, I have to clean him, I have to clean the house, I have to make sure he gets to school, I have to make sure that he learns the right things to do, the right prayers. She had all of these things. And this is why, if you're a mom, you cannot do wrong when you dedicate your motherhood journey to her. And I'm not and I know Mary has been held as a model for women in the Catholic Church, particularly for a long time. And it's also a pet peeve of mine, because a lot of the time when they're telling us that Mary is a model, they're saying, yeah, be perfect like she is, be holy like she is, don't make any mistakes, don't get angry, don't get anxious, no, 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 no. We are normal. Mary was normal, and she would have all of these emotions. She was not emotionless. She had all these challenges that she had to walk through. And in that, yes, I believe that we should use her as a model of somebody who went through motherhood, all the ups and downs of motherhood, but whose faith in God helped her through that. What her, her port in the storm. Someone when she's upset about how things are going, or maybe there's no food for her to eat. Particularly, we know that Joseph, after a while, wasn't around anymore, and she became a single mom. So she'll be worried, she'll be thinking, how do I raise him? What do I tell him? How do I feed him? How do I make sure everything is fine? Make sure that I protect myself, protect Jesus, and all of that stuff. She had all of these challenges. She had all the teething problems. So she had all the things that babies would have, moms with little babies would have. But what I would encourage us to take from her is the fact that even though she had all of these things going on, she was rooted. Her faith rooted her. Her belief in God rooted her, and that was where her peace came from, and that was where her faith, her energy, the source of her strength. That was where it came. That was just God was the source of her strength. Her faith in God was the source of her strength. And if you're trying to get pregnant, because we know that Mary didn't struggle to get pregnant, motherhood was more or less just thrust upon her. um, if you're trying to get pregnant, do not think that she doesn't understand what you're going through. She really does. She really, really does. Because if you remember, as soon as she heard that she was pregnant and her cousin Elizabeth, who was far gone in years, was pregnant, the first thing she did was to hurry down. That was the word, hurry down to go and visit her cousin Elizabeth. And she stayed with her for 3 months. So if Elizabeth was in her 6th month, it means that she was there until John the Baptist was born. I imagine that she was there during the naming ceremony. She would have seen Zechariah's tongue being released and being able to speak. She would have seen all of that marvel. But she was very solicitous. She understood what Elizabeth would have been going through. You remember that Elizabeth, when she actually got pregnant, she hid herself from everyone because she's like, "What's going on with me? Am I even pregnant? What are people going to say? I'm at this age. What are you doing, getting pregnant? You don't leave everything else. So many things. You can imagine because again, we don't need to look far. We don't need to even imagine. We don't need to stretch our imagination by much. Think of hearing about a 60-year-old woman, for instance, getting pregnant and having a baby, and people are like, how's she going to take care of the baby? She herself is not even sure what's going on with her. Mary understood that. Mary understood that. Mary hurried there to support, even though she also had something going on for her that she's trying to wrap her head around, and she was not even sure how she's going to tell her husband, her fiance, what she was going to do and how everything was going to work, and she didn't know. But she was like, you know what? Somebody needs me right now. Elizabeth being her cousin, they probably would have been praying to God for her on her behalf that she would have a baby. They would have been supporting her, trying to, worried for her. So if you're trying to get pregnant, know that Mary understands what you're going through because we know firsthand that she knew somebody who was going through that. We know the support she gave to her when she did not get pregnant at her old age and said, it's going to be tough for this woman. I'm going to be there for her during this time. So if you're pregnant as well, and maybe you're going through a difficult pregnancy, maybe because, it's a high risk pregnancy because of your age or because of your health or because maybe you've lost several pregnancies before and you're pregnant again, Mary can accompany you during this time. She knows how to do it. She did it. If you're apprehensive, like how am I going to have delivered this baby? I've heard so many horror stories, or maybe you've experienced childbirth in a very difficult way and you're dreading being able to go through it again. Mary can accompany you along that journey, not because she also had to go and give birth to her son, or that she gave birth to her own son, but she was there with Elizabeth when she gave birth to her own son. So if we have this rosy colored image of how Mary gave birth without pain to Jesus and everything was fantastic and she didn't even know she was in labor, which honestly I don't believe at all. Because, and why don't I believe it? Maybe I can, a bit of a digression here. Original sin, God's intention for us was to be fruitful and multiply, to fill the earth, to subdue it. He gave us everything. And we're not supposed to bring forth our children in pain. We know very clearly that this was a consequence of original sin. We fell and we lost the harmony, the natural harmony with which we should be able to conceive and have our children. So we know that. But we also know that this effect of original sin is different from actually being a sinner. So it's nothing to do with our personal sin. It's nothing to do with because I'm a sinner, then my childbirth will be more painful than somebody who hasn't sinned. No. We know that Jesus felt pain. We know that he died. We know that all the human things that we would experience, he experienced it. He was hungry, was thirsty. All of these things were a result of original sin. They were consequences of original sin. They were not just things that were, you know, what's it called? Just there, all human beings will feel pain and die. No, there wasn't supposed to be all of these things until original sin happened. So if Jesus could go through all of these things for original sin, I find it really hard to believe that Mary will be exempt from all the rigors of motherhood, getting pregnant, all the morning sickness and all of the childbirth and all of that. I don't believe that that's true. I mean, If somebody can give me a very strong theological reason for that, I'll be very happy to hear it. But I don't see that pain and suffering, I don't see it in the lives of Mary and in the lives of Jesus that they were exempt from it. But the fact that their souls were not stained with original sin was different from being able to experience the consequences of original sin, if you understand where I'm going to. So, but if, for instance, you believe that, okay, I don't believe what Bridget is saying, I don't agree with it. I believe that she probably had a baby without her even knowing that the baby, she was sleeping and the baby, kind of appeared next to her somehow without any pain, without her any making any going through any discomfort. Okay, the church hasn't said we should believe this or that, so of course we're very free. But think of her cousin Elizabeth, who at an advanced age, which I don't remember, I don't think the Bible actually tells us what age it was, she had to have a baby. And Mary was there with her. Mary understood the pain she went through. Mary understood how it was she was trying to breastfeed her child at the beginning, how she might have struggled. Mary understood how the sleepless nights of having to raise a child, having to care for a child when you're half asleep yourself. She experienced that. She would have seen her cousin experience it. So if you are there thinking, how am I going to handle childbirth? How am I going to handle labor? How am I going to handle the first few weeks or months of having my baby? She understands it. She understands it. So I want to leave you. Before I leave you, actually, I am going to still talk about something that is coming up for me that I want to share with you. But I just want you to understand that wherever you are on this journey, Mary can and will definitely be supporting you along this journey if you let her do that. And you can do that by praying the rosary, by saying the Hail Marys and saying Miriam prayers, or just maybe reflecting on her life. And that's one of the reasons why saying the rosary is fantastic, because it kind of takes us through the different stages of Mary's life in conjunction with her son. So because again, we can't remove Jesus from Mary, because we know Mary because of Jesus, and Jesus he's our Messiah, he's our God, and Mary's work was to bring this Messiah to the world for us to be able to know and to worship and to serve. However, but before I leave, I just wanted to let you know that in order for us to be the moms that God has called us to be, because God did tell us to be fruitful and multiply, and we've seen how Mary had also did that with her life. I want to share with you how I have been able to support women with this. And my approach, as you probably already know, maybe as a fertility therapist, natural approach and all of that. But my approach is strongly based, the foundation of it is based on the fact that it is God who has called us to be mothers. It is God who has called us to be fruitful and multiply. And he called us to be fruitful and multiply because he already gave us everything that we needed to be able to do that. Because when he created the world and he created Adam and Eve at the end, he saw that his work was very, very good. Was very good. So that was what and I found it very interesting that throughout the days of creation, he saw that his work was good. But when he created Adam and Eve, he saw that his work was very good. So I don't know, they're very just, it makes a lot of sense to me. So God already gave us what we needed to be fruitful and multiply. We know that original sin came and disrupted a lot of things, but we know that even so, even before he told us what the consequences of original sin was, he already promised us as the Messiah. He told us that the seed of the woman will strike the head of the serpent. He already promised us his son. And in the fullness of time, Mary gave birth to Jesus. And Mary was that woman, and Mary gave birth to Jesus. And Jesus came and he redeemed us. He reconciled us to the Father. And because of that, even though original sin has made it difficult for us to conceive, made it difficult for us to have healthy pregnancies, made it difficult for us to even be able to raise our children, we know we've got the grace that we need. But in order for us to be able to fulfill this mandate, we need to become the women that he created us to be from the beginning. We need to become new Eves, because when the old Eve, the original Eve, struggled with the original sin. We need to be new Eves. We also know that the church the church sees Mary as the new Eve. Again, it was her son that that crushed the head of the serpent. He was the woman. She's the woman that eventually brought forth that redemption. So, for you and I, to be able to have the families that God has wanted us to have, then it will it is it makes sense that we want to be the woman that He has created us to be new Eves, like model on Mary, like I have already explained, because again, like I said, Mary is not this untouchable, unreachable, perfect woman where everything in her life is rosy. She was perfect in the sense that she didn't have original sin, but she went through the normal rigors of motherhood, just like you and I go through. And but it's not so much in just looking at her and praying to her or praying with her or asking her to intercede for us before God. It's also about us modeling our lives in a way that makes us new Eves. And this is why I created the New Eve method. The New Eve method is a combination of so many things. My work as a holistic fertility therapist, with which I look at different aspects of fertility, the woman's emotions, the woman's body, the woman's mind, and so many her environment. There's so much that goes into helping a woman to get pregnant, but it's also rooted in the fact that it is God who has called us to be fruitful and multiply. And the more we are the women that God created us to be, the easier it is for us to follow the mandate that He gave us to do. Because again, He gave us from the very beginning what we needed. So the New Eve method is comprised of all these 5 different steps. It's a human ecology model because I also have a background in social sciences and the ecology of human health and disease. So it's a 5-step process that looks at your union with God, your emotions and your confidence, your diet, your menstrual cycle, your environment, everything that it takes for you to be that new Eve that God would want you to be, so that you can have the family that He wants you to have. So whether you're trying to get pregnant, whether you're already pregnant, whether you have your children already, the New Eve method will help you to become more of the woman that God created you to be, modeled on Mary, who is the new Eve. And when you have that, the more you are aligned with that version of yourself that God wants you to be, the easier it is for you to become the mom that God also wants you to be, has mandated you to be, has called you to be. Does this mean that motherhood is going to be a walk in the park? No. But it means you have all the tools you need to be able to conceive. You have the tools you need to be able to have a healthy pregnancy and healthy pregnancy and childbirth, and the tools you need to be the best mom you can be to your children. If you're interested in all of this, I'm going to put a link somewhere below this video. This link in particular is for women who want to get pregnant and are struggling to get pregnant and want to be able to use the new Eve to be able to become the best version of themselves, to become more of the women God created them to be, to improve their fertility so that they can improve their chances of a healthy conception, all done naturally. The link is below. Now, it will take you to a web page where you can sign up for a class where I'm going to teach you exactly how this is going to work and how you can begin to use the New Eve method to build your family, to conceive, and to raise your children. So anyway, I hope this video has been of interest to you. I hope it has helped you to think of Mary in a different way. I hope it has helped you to think of motherhood in a slightly different way. And I hope that I see you on the masterclass where I'm going to be teaching the New Eve method as a way for you to conceive, to raise, and care for your children the way God wanted you to do, the way God has called you to do. And if you have any questions, again, please put them in the comments and share this video. You never know who it's going to be very useful for or useful to. And yes, I hope to see you on the next video. Take care and God bless.